thrilled to have the honor of sitting on the stage with Ambassador Efraim Halevy. I know that he does not need any introduction, and I will just remind everyone he is the former head of the Mossad, former national security advisor, ambassador, received accolades for his contribution to our relationship with Jordan, Israel-Jordan, and he is, no one really can fill his shoes, and we are so grateful to have you with us now and to share some of your thoughts on what you've heard today. What are you thinking with respect to China and Israel?
I want to thank you for inviting me, even at this late hour. And I want to compliment everybody who stayed on to listen to me as well. I'd like to begin by mentioning to you all that the second largest diplomatic mission that Israel has in the world is in China. It's the largest number of representations inside China. It's second only to the United States. And I think this is a reflection, a very wise reflection on the part of Israel and those who undertook this effort to maintain this relationship, that we have to look at things in a more balanced fashion. I've been sitting here for over an hour at the back. I sensed a note of gloom, of concern, of people who are worried about the future. And I've not just come here to give you a message of, shall we say, of joy concerning the situation at the moment, but only to say that we have been in worse situations in the past, and I'm sure that we will be able to get out of the present morass that we are in, both domestically and strategically, as a result of the events of the last 200 odd days. I also would like to say that I believe that the Chinese have been very, very circumspect in the way they have commented on the situation here and the war which broke out. And although on the face of it, it looked as if they were immediately allied with our enemies, I don't think that in practical terms this had any result in the field. I don't think that China supported the Hamas in any way, practically speaking. They did in the past, but I don't think that this is the case, the current case, or the case in the last 10, 20 years. I think we also have to take into account that China has an approach which is a long-term approach concerning history. And probably the most ancient history there is in the world of not only science and technology, but also in the art of war. I remind you that Sun Tzu, even to this day, is a very, very important source of study in West Point. An American general translated the Sun Tzu book on strategy from Chinese into English. That this translation was given to me as a present when I finished my service in the United States as Mossad, the station chief, for 4 years. A 4-star general in the United States, in a departing gesture, gave me the book of Sun Tzu. So I think we have to be a little more, shall we say, stable in the way we approach what is happening around us today. We're going through a difficult period, a period in which we have serious internal problems. We were facing a constitutional crisis months before the war broke out, and I think that our enemies in the south were following this very, very carefully, and chose the right moment from their point of view to carry out the operation that they were intending to mount against Israel. To the best of my knowledge, I think the ultimate target of the Hamas when they began this campaign was not to end the fighting the way it is today. As far as I know from sources which I've gathered, the ultimate intention was, after the initial assault, to go south, to capture Beersheba, and then go even further south and even get to as far as Eilat, and then from a platform, which would be a very large platform, to turn northwards, and if possible in the end, to bring about the end of the State of Israel. I think that was the plan in not every detail, but that was the concept. And we have to be clear in our minds that this has not been achieved and will never be achieved. Will Asia play a role in this conflict in a serious manner? I doubt. I doubt if this will happen. I doubt if Asian powers will become involved directly in what is happening here. I doubt if Saudi Arabia, with which we have a dialogue for quite some time, and Saudi Arabia is a very, very important player in the world here, and also, by the way, has very, very wide relationships with China. I think that China is not interested to be a player in the Israeli-Arab conflict. That is my view.
Can I just ask, how do you interpret China's effort to bring together Fatah and Hamas to join them in one unit?
I think, first of all, they failed. I think it is a sign of their lack of real information and real analysis of the situation in the Palestinian world. The fact of the matter is that it was not possible to bring Fatah and Hamas together, and they will never be together. And the idea that they had to bring them together was maybe a theoretical idea of looking at the map, but in practical terms, this was not possible ever. And generally speaking, the Chinese have been very, very circumspect in this manner, and have sought mainly in their relationship with Israel to gain from Israel and study from Israel, and to be able to take what Israel has to offer in science, technology, and many other areas, how to gain something more for China internally. 10 years ago or so, a big Chinese delegation came to Israel, led by a Chinese general, and they approached the Institute for Special Studies at the Hebrew University, led by a very renowned physicist, who is now the president of CERN, which is the European nuclear reactor in Switzerland. And the reason they came was to find out how is it possible to get as many Nobel Prizes as possible. What is the methodology that Israel employed in order to have such a large number, relatively speaking, of Nobel Prize winners in comparison with any other country of our size? Well, I don't think they were able to get a satisfactory reply, not because we had any hidden secret here, but I don't think there is a reply. It was simply a fact that happened to be that we had a number of people who were very prominent in their fields, both men and women, by the way. And it's also true that Israel has a disproportionate number of Nobel prizes. But this was the kind of approach that China then had. And I think even to this day, China is not only interested in being involved economically and otherwise here in Israel, but it's also interested all the time in trying to get as much as it can out of Israel and Israel science and technology the way it is today.
Can I ask, how would you recommend, given the current situation regionally and globally, given the U.S.-China rivalry and China's growing role in many different regions of the world and technologies, and its success in its promotion of electric vehicles, contributing on the one hand to climate change, and on the other hand becoming a concern for Europe and the U.S. Because they have been maybe too successful in that area. So here in our corner of the world, how should we be dealing with China in this current context?
I think that Israeli government policy on China is these days characterized by the absence of any thoughts given to what you've asked. For obvious reasons, the powers that be in this country are concentrated on how to gain war in the south, a target which has not yet been achieved, and in my opinion has a growing possibility of there being the end of a war with no winner either side. I don't want to say of both sides losing the war, but I don't think that we're going to end the war of this current war with having one winner or one loser. I don't think so, the way it is now. And I don't think this will fundamentally change in the weeks and months to come, as long as the current war continues. But I do think that due to the fact that everybody in government who has any weight or anything is involved in the war and how the war can be brought to a positive end, there are very few people who devote much thought to the fact that suddenly we're going to have an influx of cars from China, which will within a year or so mean that 50% of the cars in Israel will be Chinese. This is a mark of lack of governmental decision-making in Israel. And it's not the only area in which the part of the damage done to Israel, its economy and so forth, is because of the fact that people don't have the power and don't have the position and don't have the authority to bring about even a minimal economic policy on basic problems of the Israeli economy. And I think that the Chinese, not because of hating Israel or so anything like that, but they are taking advantage of the situation here. And they've done that very wisely. I'm not complaining about this. I'm saying that it's a fact. We have to recognize this. But unfortunately, in Israel, at this particular point in time, there is no governmental office or no governmental authority who will sit down for 5 minutes and discuss or think about where and how China is conducting its interests in Israel today.
I am afraid I have to agree with you on that. But actually, we've found that that's been the case for years. I mean, there is a government department that works very well in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but it's not a wide enough effort to be able to achieve the goals you're outlining. But if you had an opportunity to speak to someone in government who perhaps later, a bit later, when focus can be readjusted, and give them some insights and suggestions, what would they be regarding China?
I think there are areas which we have to be very careful about in terms of the health of this country and the health of the citizens of this country. China has a very growing role in a long list of companies that provide medical services to the population, not the major sick funds and so forth, but many, many other types of supplemental services to various areas of, for instance, treating people at their homes and so forth. All the companies which are involved in this, of giving services, are now owned by the Chinese. That also means to say that the health conditions of people who accept these services, who in many cases are senior people in Israel society, there is a wealth of information about their health and many other things concerning this. And there is no consideration about this of importance, and this is something which has to be looked at. But I have not found anybody who has 2 minutes to listen to this, and that is the way things are. It's one of the problems we have at the moment in Israel, that even matters of priority, like, for instance, how to deal with the problem in the north, how to deal with the fact that the people in the north have not, for months upon months, have not received any real attention. And the Prime Minister came up there for a few hours and spent time there and left them just as he had left them 4 months previously, when he talked to them with nothing in hand. So we have to take this into consideration, and to know that those forces, not only China, I think maybe others, who want to cash in on the situation that Israel is in. China has been very, very, say, active, not in a sense of a hostile approach, but an approach which serves Chinese interests.
If I may, I'd like to switch gears a bit and ask you, maybe you heard a bit about our Global Israel Initiative, focusing on Israel as a middle power on the world stage and cultivating ties with Indo-Pacific countries. You've been around and in positions of significance in this country for decades. From your perspective, what are your thoughts on the potential for Israel in the Indo-Pacific?
I think the Pacific has a bigger potential for Israeli exports in many, many fields. I think that Israel has a lot of potential in providing technology and in a large number of areas. Israel has been very active in key countries in Southeast Asia, for instance in Indonesia, with whom we don't have diplomatic relations.
Yet.
But yet, yes. But Israelis travel to Indonesia, and Indonesia is a very large player in Southeast Asia. I'm sure you accept this. And I think that there is an enormous area here where we could really contribute, first of all, to the interests of people in Southeast Asia, and on the other hand, to contribute to our being a country with which we can be dealt with without having Israel having an interest in the internal affairs of those countries. One of the things that Israel was perfecting over the years was that we gave a variety of support in very many areas to countries in Southeast Asia. who knew that if we gave them this support, this would not result in the fact that these countries would not only not be beholden to us, but also would be dependent on us. No Southeast Asia country is dependent on Israel, but many, many Southeast Asian countries are countries which have received key support in key issues. And we have given this support with an open heart, and we have, in certain cases, also developed very important relationships with them. For instance, like a country called Singapore, which on the face of the earth, if you look at it, you need a magnifying glass to find out where Singapore is. But Singapore is a country where we have been very active over very, very many years, and we have not, as a result of that, become part of the government of Singapore and telling them what to do in their political and internal affairs. And I think from this point of view, Israel still has a potential in placing its capabilities to the service of countries like that, including, by the way, China in certain key areas in which we have been useful to them.
One area that I've been told is relevant for the Indo-Pacific, for Israel, which relates to our national security, is defense development. That because there is a growing need for defense material, and there is an advanced human resources pool in the Indo-Pacific, it is not intrinsically anti-Semitic, and that combination creates an atmosphere for the potential for R&D in military defense and for production and manufacturing. What's your view of that?
I think we have to take into account, in this respect, the global scene. We have to take into our consideration the interests of the United States. We are still, from our economic and certainly from our defense aspects, have a very important relationship with the United States, which is second to none in every aspect. But this has also comes with a proviso that we do not do things which cause damage to the policies of the United States. And in the past, we have had several very, very serious crises with the United States over what we have been doing with China. And in each of these cases, we have paid very, very painful prices for what we have done. And we had to carry out a series of steps which were demanded of us by the United States, which had relationship to China. And very often in recent years, Americans who used to come here, as the Secretary of State used to come here, didn't only deal with Israel's requirements for equipment and so forth, but it also dealt with problems like what's happening in the Haifa port, and why is in Haifa there are Chinese activities adjacent to the ports. These are things which we have to take into account, and for which we have paid a price. By the way, first and foremost, who pushed the relationship with China to beyond the desired, shall we say, points where we should not be necessarily in league with China, was the incumbent Prime Minister of Israel.
My final question. The title of this conference is China's Rise and the Global Israel Initiative. How do you see China's rise going forward in general, and to what extent do you see its rise impacting Israel in the Middle East?
I've had the opportunity from time to time to speak to Chinese figures of one kind or another, and I believe that they are very conscious of the reservations we sometimes have as to which subjects and how to attach them, how to deal with them. I think they understand. China has enormous patience, and that's part of the secret of its long history. And I think that we have to try and learn from them something about patience. And we have to be patient with the Chinese in some of the things they've been saying and doing. I think that what they did to bring about the renewal of relationships between Iran and Saudi Arabia was a positive move, even from our point of view. Because from our point of view, given the way the Saudis have their relationships with us, the fact that Iran renewed relations with Saudi Arabia under the auspices of the Chinese meant to say, if you look at it in a proper, serious manner, this could be of great benefit to Israel if ultimately the Saudis enter into an open, serious relationship with Israel. So we have to be a little more circumspect, the way we speak, the way we jump to conclusions, the way we suddenly get excited. For instance, the Chinese-Iranian relationship, there is a defense relationship between them. There is an intelligence relationship with them. If you ask me, has the result of this affected Israel in terms of what they've been doing together on the area of intelligence cooperation? I think not. I don't think that the Chinese are providing the Iranians or the Iranians are providing the Chinese serious information or are trying together to work out operational activities against Israel. I don't think this is the case. And we have to be a little more mature. Good question, a good word.
Good word.
Yeah, a good word. We have to be a little more mature. And the more mature we will be, the happier we'll ultimately be as well. And I think that on this happy note, it is important to conclude this meeting because I want to congratulate you on having this conference. I want to thank you very much for inviting me. I met a lot of people outside before I came in, and you have brought together a lot of young people here who I've never met before. So let us end this meeting with saying Shabbat Shalom, and let us hope that all of us will, shall we say, emerge happier at the next meeting that I'm sure you will have.
And I have nothing more to add except thank you from the bottom of my heart, and Signal Group thanks you, and we thank all of you, and we look forward to seeing you, Bezrat Hashem, next year. Shabbat Shalom.